Welcome everyone back to Beat the Game, and welcome to another edition of Understanding the Mechanics, featuring our friend Star-Lord. Alright, so guys, once again, remember, if you guys want to have a chance to win some of these super nice OP promo cards, they're not foil, that's just the sleeve that they're in. Just make sure that you put a little comment in that mega thread that I posted. It's going to get drawn on May 31st, so you still have about 11 days to put your name in if you haven't done it already. It's in the Facebook group. All you have to do is put a little comment, just say your name, just say, hey, I want in. That's it. No need to subscribe to the channel or anything. Just do that, and you're going to be entered to win into that contest. All right, so now let's take a look-see at our friend Star-Lord. Now, to be fair, the first time I actually played Star-Lord, I did not like it. It was not for... Maybe it was late. Maybe I got aggravated because it was a completely different experience than what I am used to. And I felt extremely overwhelmed. I'm like, what is this? Taking extra encounter cards? That is just dumb. Why would you want to do that? But now that I've played him for a couple of weeks now, I really dive into that mechanic, and outside of that pre-con, this character is bananas. All right, you can win big or lose big very easily. But it's very thematic, which for me is a lot more important than if the guy is OP or not. So I think what they did with Star-Lord is fantastic. I love what they did. Not only that, but it also shows you against multiple scenarios, taking extra encounter cards may not be that bad not bad. Again, it depends on the scenarios, but on most scenarios, Star-Lord will be very good. All right, so now let's take a look at our friend Peter Quill here. So Peter Quill has a recovery of 3. He is an outlaw. He has a setup ability. He has a hand size of 6 and 10 hit points. A cool thing about his setup is you can search your deck and discard pile for a copy of the elemental gun upgrade and add that to your hand, and then you shuffle your deck. Now that's something I have a tendency of forgetting. So I got to put myself a little reminder when I play him, just go get yourself a gun. If you discard one, that's fine, and then you can, if you got one in your hand, you can discard it. The only thing that sucks is if you have both of them in your opening hand, you're like, oh, drats, so you lose that extra card. But that aside from that is okay, because you can, so the setup always happens first. And then he's got an ability called the Smooth Talker, which again, very characteristic. So it's kind of like a mini mulligan where you can choose a card in your hand, and then you can swap that with the top card of your deck, limits once per round. Now there's a couple options, a couple things that are really cool, because it's information. It's knowing what the top card of your deck is, because let's say you have something that is useless or it's not going to be practical, and there's a bunch of cards in his deck that if you don't have an ally, it doesn't do anything. So there's a bunch of cards that you can just be like, okay, cool, I'll put that on the top of my deck. Maybe I'll get something better. It won't be a double resource unless it's a power of, because there's not a lot of double resources in his deck. But he does compensate with that very well. And then you know what the top deck is. All right. Star-Lord, he has a 2 thwart, 2 attack, which is very standard. 2/2/2 is very solid for a hero. The 1 defense, I feel, is a little low, especially with him trying to get extra encounter cards. It is pretty crazy. So he is a guardian, and then he says each ally you control gains the guardian trait. Now that is going to synergize with a bunch of cards in his kit, in his precon. So that's actually really interesting. And then he's got an interrupt ability. It says, what could go wrong? And that is, I think this is where I love it. I hated it at first, and then I loved it. It's what could go wrong. It's an interrupt. So when you go to pay for a card, you can deal yourself an encounter card instead, and then reduce the cost of that first card by 3. So that is huge. So that means you're basically netting 3 cards. It gives you a +3 hand size for free. So your first card is 3 less. It's insane. It's so much value. because you can play these things that cost 3, and in his kit, a lot of them have that 3 factor. So basically, you can kind of play one of his big cards for free, and they're not nothing. All right, so that for me is very, very good. So aside from that, so he can be great in justice, he can be great in aggression. The fact that he gives them, he's a 2/2, that means you can kind of be very versatile. Protection, with a 1 defense, you do have to choose what kind of protection strategy you want to use. But I have found when I played him, I did build a really cool protection deck with him that I loved. And I called it the Power of 3. If you want, you can check it out. It's on Marvel CBD, and it's super, super fun to play. And it's basically bring on the pain. It's just bring on the pain, which is very cool. All right, so let's take a look at his hero kit. All right, so he does come with 1 ally, and his ally is none other less than Nova Prime. So Nova Prime is a 5-cost ally. It's Richard Rider Nova Prime, so he's a unique character. He's got a 2 thwart and a 3 attack with 1 consequential damage, which is pretty darn solid for an ally. Because at the cost of 5, you want something that does something strong. He is an aerial character, and he's part of the Nova Corps, which is a new trait that we have not had before. And he's got 3 health, and he also has a response after you play Nova Prime from your hand. Now that's super important. It's from your hand. I think the designers found that all these enter the battlefield effects are just way too strong. When you're thinking of like Falcon or Nick Fury or even Maria Hill, just being able to recur these from the discard pile is just powerful. But it says you can defeat a non-elite minion. Now there's 2 pros and cons on that. So yes, he's a pretty good ally, he's very strong. But the thing is, if you're playing against a scenario with not a lot of minions, it might not be as crucial. If you're playing against a scenario like Claw and the Masters of Evil, which was my first experience, and most of the Masters of Evils are elite minions, well, he was basically useless. Okay, I could defeat an armored guard, whippy, but that was about it. So that for me, I was like, I was a little frustrated about that. But aside from that, he's very situational good. And if you can reduce his cost by 3, he only costs you 2 hands. So basically, it brings him down to a 2 printed cost and an actual printed cost of 3. So he's pretty expensive, but all in all, if you can use his ability, definitely use it. If not, he's always a wild resource, and he can be good for other stuff. Now, some of the more thematic cards as well that are very cool for him, and I love this card. It is called the Bad Boy. Now, this is one of my favorite cards. It, again, is a cost of 3, so you can just put that card into play with his ability for free. It is a support. It is a unique vehicle, and it says Hero Interrupt when you would take any amount of damage from the villain's attack. And now that is very important. It has to be from the villain's attack. It is specified. Okay, so you can discard this card, prevent all that damage, and then change to alter ego form and then draw 2 cards. So that is crazy good value. So this is cool. So you deal yourself an encounter card, and then you can kind of go and chill back and alter ego, and hopefully you don't get the advances for being safe. Now what's cool about this is if you get this in early in the game, you can do that at the early game, or you can wait till your deck thins out and then kind of do it, and then go back down, because you'll have to discard that before you draw 2 cards. So even if you do deck out, you will reshuffle that and then draw your 2 cards, which is very, very cool. And then just that extra 2 card hand size is very, very good, because then you have a hand size of 7 in alter ego, because obviously you started in hero form. So maybe, or if you have your helmet, maybe it's going to be even more, so you can end up with a 10 card hand size. And with a 10 card hand size, you should be able to do a lot of damage. All right, so Bad Boy, very, very fun card. Now he's got 2 super cool cards called the Elemental Guns. So he's got 2 of those guns. He's got 2 hands, he should have 2 guns. These are both restricted, so max 2 restricted per player. So if you are playing in aggression, don't put a Yonborn, or if you're going to put Yonborn or Godslayer or some of the other restrictions like the hand cannons, just make sure that you remember that these are restricted, so you cannot have more than 2 restricted items per character. But it is a great thing. It is a tech. It is a weapon. And again, it costs 3. So in your opening hand, you go get it and you put it on the table. This is something that you shouldn't be ignored. And I think that was my big mistake when I started playing him, is I did not take advantage of this. This is very, very good. At first, I'm like, well, I pay 3, I get an encounter card. It does nothing because then I have to spend a resource to deal 3 damage. But it's hero action. It is an attack, okay? So exhaust the element gun and spend 1 resource of any type and then deal 3 damage to an enemy and it gains piercing. Now, that 3 damage and piercing is very, very good, especially if you're going up against like Ronin or somebody who starts with a tough, or anybody with like who puts himself a lot of tough status cards. This is super, super good. And if you have both, it's 2 resources for 6 damage piercing. The logic is there. The logic is there. These are very powerful upgrades. I was gonna say, I forgot to say, well, this is definitely a priority number 1. You want to get these out, and this is also having at least one of these on the table is extremely important. I don't say maybe play both, but if you can, definitely start the game off with this into play. It's worth it. It's worth that extra card. So this is also a priority 1 card that you want to be playing on here. All right, the next one, which is another cool card, is his title, the leader of the Guardians of the Galaxy. This is pretty fun. So we know we had like Sorcerer Supreme, which was this is the first, I think, title card that we have for a character kit. So that's fun. So as leader of the Guardians, it's a 3 cost upgrades, again, that you can play for free. Now this, unless you're playing leadership or you're playing justice, this is more of a build card. So this is not a high priority card unless you are the designated thwarter. And if you are the designated thwarter, then this should go up in your priorities. But or else that it's a good card that you can kind of play later in the game. But it says each Guardian character you control gets +1 thwart. Now the good thing about this is while you are in hero form, all of your allies are Guardians. So all of your Guardians get +1 thwart allies. So this is very, very good because then you can really control, like a Maria Hill. You play Maria Hill, and now suddenly she thwarts for 3. Daredevil thwarts for 3, deals a damage. Who else is pretty crazy? If you're playing on the Rise of Red Skull campaign and you get Tigra. Tigra now thwarts for 4. This is bonkers. So this is very good. Again, if you are the designated thwarter. Or else it's a card you can kind of stop by. And it's pretty cool. The art on that is pretty nice as well. So that's another great card. Here is, I think, another very good card that I did not play enough when I started playing this. This is definitely a card that is going to help you. And it really ties into this mechanic. So it's a 2 cost upgrade called the Jet Boots. It is an item, it's a tech, and it also gives him the aerial trait, okay? It is a hero interrupt. When Star-Lord would take any amount of damage, exhaust the Jet Boost. So this is any amount of damage. It doesn't specify from an attack. So this, again, with the new defense rulings and stuff like that, this is any amount of damage. So if you're playing against Risky Business and the Green Goblin flips and then you have 3 encounter cards, well, you can prevent this and prevent 3 indirect damage or 3 direct damage coming your way. So that is very, very important, especially because he has a defensive 1. That is super, super good. All right. And then you prevent 1 of that damage for each face down encounter card in front of you. So again, the more encounter cards you have in front of you, the more you're playing into his mechanics of getting more cards in, the more this is useful. So I had a turn where I had 6 encounter cards in front of me, and I'm like, all right, the villain attacks you. Yep, I'm just gonna prevent all of that, whatever that is. So that is very, very cool. I wish there was a way to maybe discard a card and ready this as a way to like complement that more, so you can be a little bit more evasive, especially that you are getting so many encounter cards. You might get attacked twice or 3 times. So yeah, it can save your butt once, twice it's not gonna happen. So it's basically, it's a one of good permanent defense card as long as you're putting in counter cards. So this should be a priority 1.5. Definitely, if you have the choice between your gun and this, well, it kind of depends how much you're going to be playing into the mechanic. So you have to kind of make your own choice on that. But this Jet Boots should not be passed. And again, I think the more I play, the more I need to lean into this, and I kind of tend to shy away, especially that I've been building a lot with a lot of allies. I'm like, well, I don't really need to block that often. But if you're not playing into the ally strategy, then definitely put this down. It will save your butt more times than none. And then finally, his final upgrade, which is the one you want to see in your opening hand, because that makes the whole character complete. His helmet. Star-Lord's helmet is a 1-cost upgrade, which is very, very good because it is a unique item, but it's not a restricted. So it's Star-Lord's helmet, and it's an armor tech. It says, while you are in hero form, you get a +1 hand size for each face down encounter card in front of you to a maximum of 3. So that's right. If you're willing to play Heroic 4, you're going to get rewarded with a +3 hand size. That means in hero form, you have 8 cards. Now that's a lot. And if you have 8 cards, normally you can do a lot of stuff with Star-Lord, all right? Now, remember, 8 cards in hand, you get his discount for 1, so that's 3. So that's already 3 resources. So man, if you do the math, you can do a lot of damage. We've been playing with Brant and Larry from the Portal, and playing in his mechanic right now. Even without the helmet, on some turns, if you're willing to get yourself some encounter cards, you can do like 25-30 damage in one shot, but then get ready to survive or get ready to die. Like, all right, it's do or die after that. So, which is very, very cool. Now, it can get really challenging for when you're playing in multiplayer, because like, oh, come on, dude, stop taking encounter cards. But it does play into the mechanic, and thematically, it's really fun. So this Star-Lord helmet is a priority number 1 if you are willing, if you want to build up. But not everyone likes that, and some people just want to go in for damage, which, again, it's how you choose to play him. I do think that this is probably a good idea to put down. But again, if you're going more for a direct approach where you just want to kill, then maybe Star-Lord's helmet is not for you. But I would definitely try to say to put this down on as soon as you get it. All right, and then he's going into some events. Now, some of these events are super cool. I think one of my one of the fun ones. It's a little pricey, but it just gets better. So the more, again, you dive into his mechanic. So if you have 1 encounter card, Gutsy Move is a 2-cost event of Thwart. It's a hero action. Thwart, remove 2 threat from a scheme and remove 2 additional threat from that scheme for each face down encounter card in front of you. So I've removed 10 threat with this at one point. You know, it's, again, it doesn't matter. Even if you have 1 card for free and you play Gutsy Move, then you're getting like 4 costs. 2 for 4, that's a 4 justice. And then 2 for 6, well then you're just broken. You just broken the game. And 2 for 8 and 2 for 10 or 2 for 12. So again, if you're going to be the justice guy, this can really, really rank up your game if you're willing to take more encounter cards and create more problems for you later. But now, it's fine. So again, Gutsy Move, super cool card. Love it, love it, love it. All right, now I think one of his most the coolest cards that he has. And this is 3 copies of this. It is the Sliding Shot. Now, one thing you got to remember, if you want to play these cards, these Sliding Shots, which again have a cost of 3, so you can play 1 for free. You absolutely need to have an elemental gun, or else it does not work. All right, so Sliding Shot is a 3-cost event. It is an attack that you can only play if you control an elemental gun. That's very important. And it says deal 5 damage to an enemy. It is an attack event, and deal 2 additional damage to that enemy for each face down encounter card in front of you. Now that is super strong. So you're like, ooh, so basically I can play for free and deal 7 damage for free. There's no better card in the game right now. Yes, it does cost you an encounter card, but free for 7 damage, it's crazy. Now, and there's ways to combo this with other things. Like I remember when I played again against Mutagen Formula, and then you flip Green Goblin to stage 3, and then he puts 3 in front of you, and then you put 1 in for free, so that's 4. So now you're doing 8 plus 5 is 13 damage for free. Bam! And then, oh, well, there, and I have 3 resources. I'll play another one. Boom, win the game. So again, high risk, high reward, super fun. Sliding Shot, definitely a card that you need to play, especially if you're going for the insta kill, or I want to try to do as much damage as possible. I'm not going to be building too much. then definitely this is a card that you want to start playing early on. Now, the only problem is if you are like me and you get unlucky in some games and you lose your elemental guns, and then you're like, oh man, all these cards I can't do nothing with. Super sad. And that happened to me in my game versus, I was playing him in Justice against Claw and the Anachronauts, and it was brutal. I went like a whole deck pass where like I can't do anything with these. I had to go through my deck as fast as possible to try to shuffle my element guns back into my deck. So that was pretty fun. And then I think the most thematic cards is Daring Escape, and this is a 0 cost event card, which is great. It's a hero action, again diving really deep in his mechanic. Daring Escape, deal yourself a face down encounter card, ready your hero, and draw a card. So again, it replaces itself and it dives into his mechanics. So you know what? Oh man, I got my thing. Oh man, I could finish the boss if I get a sliding shot. And this is basically kind of deck searching. It's like, all right, let's see if I can get this. Oh no, I didn't get it. Well, you know, I got another one. Then I'm dealing myself another encounter card. Oh, let's see. Oh no, I didn't get it. Oh shoot, but I have another one. All right, let's deal ourselves a third encounter card. I'm like, oh my God. If you do this at the beginning of the game, you might lose the game on turn 1. All right, I'm not lying. This can be extremely dangerous in your opening hand. This is my suggestion to you. Try not to dive into these unless you absolutely need to in the early game, because it might wreck you, especially in the opening hand. But you know, if you're in the mid game and you have a little bit of board stability and a little bit of a board presence, then definitely dive into these, because it just makes that character just so much more fun, where you're just like, yeah, let's see what happens. And definitely combination with the bad boy and the sliding shot, these two cards together, man, it's just good. And it's actually good with all of the other cards as well. So his hero kit, super fun, very thematic. I love it that it's super thematic and it's very high damage output. So again, these villains that have like 10, 12 health, 14 health on standard, you can most likely take them out on one turn 90% of the time with Star-Lord, if you're going to go deep into the mechanic. And if you happen to get, like, say, a bad boy or something like that, and you can be safe and flip down to alter ego, even better. All right, so in his kit, there's 5 or 6? 2, 4, 6, 7. There is 7 new leadership cards that are presented to us, which is pretty fun. All right, so let's see what we get with the leadership precon. All right, so the first card we're going to talk about in this kit is the Air Supremacy. All right, so this is a 2-cost event. It is an aerial tactic card. Okay, so that means it's not an attack. It's not an attack. It's a tactic. Okay, so that means if you're stunned, you can still play this card and still do the things. So it says hero action, choose up to X enemies. Okay, what is the X? Where X is equal to the number of aerial characters you control. So let's say you have 2 aerial characters. Let's say you have Star-Lord with his boots and you have Nova Prime. Those are 2 characters that have the aerial trait. So you can choose 2 enemies and play. And after that, you deal 3 damage to each of the chosen enemies. So where it's good is you can do 3 damage and 3 damage. So basically 2 for 6 damage is pretty darn good. But again, it is very limited to the number of aerial characters you control. Now, where it can become really crazy or really good is if you're playing with some Avenger characters and you add the Sky Cycles to some of them. So if you have 3 or 4 characters with Sky Cycles, or 3 characters with Sky Cycles and a couple of other guys that have flying or aerial, then you can choose up to 5 enemies. So now you can do 2 and you can go up to like 15 or 12. Now that makes tremendous sense, and it's just making leadership even better. So this again is a card to watch, but again it's very specific to a certain build. That means you have to include 3 Sky Cycles in your deck. You have to include, this Air Supremacy. You have to probably be fighting a scenario with multiple minions. I'm thinking, mutagen formula or Ultron drones or stuff like that, where it would actually start giving you very good value. But again, it's not a bad card. Like I said, I think right now it's an okay card. I think If we get more aerial characters, because right now we only have Falcon and Warlock, Adam Warlock. Those are the only two aerial characters that don't need the sky cycle. So aside from that, there's not that many. So again, it's a card that I believe with more allies that come out or more cards that get exposed to us, we'll be able to find this somewhere else. So again, I don't think it's a bad card. It's an okay card for now. All right, so now this is I think one of the best cards in his deck. It's called the Blaze of Glory. Now this is super solid. This is a 2-cost event, max once per round, and there's a reason for that. And hero action, each Guardian character gets +2 thwart and +2 attack this phase. Now what's cool about that is because Star-Lord gives everyone the Guardian trait, everyone, all of your allies get +2/+2, which is great. So you can really, either you need to remove a ton of threat or you need to do a lot of damage. This card is going to help you get there. Now, and at the end of the phase, deal 1 damage to each Guardian character. Now, what's really cool is if you build Star-Lord with only, let's say, Avenger characters, you go down to Peter Quill, and now all of a sudden, all of these guys are no longer Guardians. So this is very, very cool. So these guys do not take that extra 1 damage. So that is very, very powerful. All right. So if you can time this well and time this properly with your characters, this is very, very much one of the strongest leadership cards out there right now. Okay. But again, it's very oriented on Guardian characters. Now, if you're playing another character that is not a Guardian, it's not going to work as well. But this is really cool with Star-Lord. It's very strong with Star-Lord, but it's also just an okay card with everybody else. Because if you are playing, let's say, a Captain America leadership deck and you're bringing in the Guardians with Make the Calls, this is still going to give them an extra point of damage at the end because they will still be Guardians at the end of the round. So, which is why it's like it's a great card with Quill when he's not running any Guardians. Okay, so there you go. Aside from that, the next card that we're going to talk about is a very cool support card. Now this I like, the Target Practice. Now this is a 0-cost support card. This right there, the cost is perfect. 0-cost support, you can put it into play, keep it there, get caught off guard, get rid of that. This is Honorary Avenger in leadership right now. It's so good. It says, interrupt. When an ally with a weapon upgrade makes an attack, discard Target Practice, and that ally gets +2 for that attack. So what is really cool about that is, let's say you have one of your big allies, okay? And then you go, and then you wait. You put 3 of these on the plate because they're not limited to 1. So, and it's an interrupt. So if you have 3 on the table, you can interrupt all 3 of them, 1, 2, 3, and give one of your allies +6 attack. That's just crazy. So even think about it. You have the Rocket Raccoon ally who gets +4. All of a sudden, he gets +10 and overkill. It's just bananas. And again, it's 0 for 2 damage. Think about it like that. Mathematically, 0 for 2 damage, it's great. 0 cost, well, 1 true cost for 2 damage, it's right up there in the good cards. So for me, Target Practice, very, very solid upgrade. Again, you need to build a specific type to get that working. But if we're looking at the upgrades, I think I'm just right now in the upgrades. So this is armor, condition, item. All right, so we only have 1 weapon. So the only weapon we have is the next card we're going to talk about, which is the Laser Blaster. All right, so obviously with the Laser Blaster is a 1-cost upgrade, which combos great with this Target Practice, is attached to a Guardian ally, max once per ally. Now here's a little tricksies, okay? So that you're like, well, how good is that? With Star-Lord, it's a great because it can go on anyone, okay? And even if Peter Quill flips down, the attachment will stay because when it was equipped on it, it was a Guardian at that time. So that's very, very good. Now, if you are, let's say, running a Captain America deck, and then you make the call and you get, let's say, a Groot or a Drax or one of the whatever ones, the Guardian ones that are out there, you can attach that to these guys. So it's kind of cool having you can attach it. You don't have to be a Guardian to play this card, but you need to attach it to a Guardian character. So that's the only kind of limitation. But aside from that, because with Peter Quill or Star-Lord, everyone's a Guardian, that makes it for everyone. So that's pretty cool. And it gives the attached ally gets +1 attack, and his attacks gain overkill. Where right there, it's so powerful. So you can really have some fun here with this card. I played a game where I was using Spider-Man, I think was Infinity Out. No, that was my precon. Oh, it was with my precon experience with against Rhino, and I think I had Beta Raybill, and I had the 3 target acquireds, and then Beta Raybill did a 10 damage attack with overkill on a minion. It was just beautiful. It was so beautiful. It was just good. Because 3, 4, and then 3 of those, yeah, that was like 10 damage. So for me, Laser Blaster, a phenomenal upgrade. Just the fact that it gains overkill right there is awesome. Now on Drax, it's not that good. Why? Because Drax cannot attack minions. On Rocket, is it good? It's not really that good on Rocket either. Why? Because Rocket already has overkill. So maybe I'm a little bit too hyper about this card. Who's this good? Cosmo? Yondu. Actually, Yondu is actually pretty good on Yondu. It was pretty good on Beta Raybill, but because I could make him a Guardian. So I'm trying to think, like, who is this good on? It's pretty cool on Iron Man if you're Iron Man ally, if you're playing with Star-Lord, because you can just equip it for free. But aside from that, yeah, it doesn't make any sense. It's okay. I'll go back and say it's an okay tech upgrade. It's just okay right now because of the limitations and the number of characters that can play this card. There you go. I think that's a better and fair analysis. All right, well, let's move on to the next one. Now let's look at these allies that we have. So the first ally we have in the kit is Adam Warlock. So he's a 3-cost ally, 1 thwart, 1 attack, 3 health. He is aerial and a mystic. So right now, so he combos a little bit with the what's it called, the air supremacy, if ever you need it. Now he has a response. Okay, so after he attacks or thwarts, you have to discard a random card from your hand. So this for me was really weird. At first I didn't read the card properly and I was discarding from the top of my deck. But this is, for me, it's not something I do enjoy, but you are discarding a random card from your hand. And in defense, if that card's printed resource has a physical, you remove 3 threat, which is super good. Lightning, you heal 3 damage from an identity. Remember, the identities are only the heroes. So you can heal from yourself or you can heal from somebody else that you're playing with, but you cannot heal allies with that. An identity has to be a hero like Spider-Man, like Star-Lord or something like that. And the mental, deal 3 damage to an enemy. And then if you discard a wild, you get to choose whichever one you want. Now, at first I was like, oh, this is garbage. This is not good. But then the more you think about it, if you play your hand properly and you keep the 1 physical or 1 resource that you want to trigger, then it makes a lot of sense. Ooh, man, I'm at 4 health. Okay, maybe I'm just going to activate and then I'll keep this lightning resource in my hand, play everything else, and then I'll activate Warlock. The random is that you don't have to do that at the beginning of the turn. So the fact that you can do it whenever you want, that's an advantage for you. So you just save what you need. Okay, I need to remove 3 threat from a scheme. Cool, I'll keep a physical. I need to heal 3 damage. I need to deal 3 damage. Good, perfect. And you can kind of round out. So that's basically a 4 thwart or a 4 attack or a thwart and attack and a heal 3. That's crazy. That's his basic recovery. So you don't need to go to alter ego anymore because you can recover, which is so good. And again, when I was playing the precon, I missed out on a lot of these little subtle nuances because I was in my own head and not used to playing these cards. So definitely very good character. All right, Yondu. So Yondu here is another fun one. So he's a little expensive. Everyone's like, 4 costs for a 2/1 with, oh wait, 2 life. Okay, so he's got 2 thwart. Okay, and then a consequence, but then he has a star, not a consequence damage. So this is the big reason why Yondu costs so much. So basically, he's Black Cat. He's Black Cat, but with ranged. So that is super cool. So when you play him, you have to, and then you just whistle, and then you pretend like you're in the thing, and you just whistle with that little laser needle, and then Yondu's attack gains ranged, and they ignore retaliate. So, and he doesn't take any consequence damage. So when you equip cards like, you know, the laser blaster, now he's doing 2 damage per turn and overkill. Obviously, the overkill is not going to overkill too much with 2, but if you build a leadership deck and you give him an inspired, now he's attacking for 3 with overkill. And if you're an Avenger when you play him, and you can give him the Avenger trait and the Sky Cycle and then the Power Gloves, and now you can hit for 4. And now it's what? And then he's hitting for 4 twice, and you're just like, damn. Okay, Yondu. Okay, Yondu is definitely a combo card. He's a combo character, kind of like what's his face? I forget what the name was, but anyway, it doesn't matter. If you want to see how good that is, I played a deck with Spider-Man. Spider-Man using the Infinity Ally strategy, where I was trying to focus all of my upgrades on Yondu and Black Cat to have them do all the work while I just kind of defended everything, and it was brutal. I went against Expert Nebula, and Yondu just did the work, man. He did the work. It was super good. So very, very cool ally. Definitely a character that you need to explore, especially even if you're playing Avenger characters or Guardian characters. This guy is legit. All right. And I think one of my new favorite allies here is Better Raybill. So strong. Again, he is crazy expensive. So 5 cost. 1 thwart, 3 attack. Better Raybill. He's got 1 consequence damage on each. He's from Asgard, which is very good because you can play him with Thor now, and you have the cost reductions and everything. Well, with the team building exercise, so make him cheaper. Awesome. And then he's got a response. So 1 attack, 3 and response. And after he attacks and defeats a minion, remove 2 threat from the main scheme? What? So this is good. He's got 4 health. His thwart of 1, you don't care. All you want to do is, he's your new minion killer. So he's the guy, especially with the gun. He's not a Guardian character. Oh yeah, so you can only equip that to him if he's a Guardian. So if you're playing Star-Lord, that works. Or else you can always give him an inspired if you're playing in without Star-Lord here. But that is super good. But in this deck, that combo for 4 overkill, oh man, that is super, super strong. So Better Raybill, 4 health too. So he's going to be alive for a while. So that's 12 damage. Of course, you're going to want to focus it on minions, not on the boss, but still. Basically, it's if you can kill a minion every time, that's 12 damage and 8 threat removal. That is insane. For 5, 12, and 8, that's a 23 difference for 5. It's very good value. All right, so that goes for this guy. All right, and then we get some weird things. Let's keep going with the ally train. So we have Cosmo. So Cosmo is a 2-cost ally with 1 thwart, 1 attack. He is a Guardian character, so cool. So you can give him that little phaser gun, but he does have an interrupt. Okay, he says when Cosmo attacks or thwarts, name a card type. So a card type is event, resource, ally, a support, upgrade. I think there's 5 types of cards. Yeah, there's 5 types. So ally, support, upgrade, event, and resource. Okay, so you choose one of those types. Or if you want to go towards the villain type, so it's, again, attachment, treachery, what are the other ones? Minion, attachment, treachery, minion, what am I forgetting? Attach, treachery, minion, side scheme. Oh, there you go, side scheme. And that's it. Yeah. Attached minions is okay. Yeah, there's only 4 card types for, so you have a better chance when you're going against the villain deck, and it can combo really good. Now, the reason why I mentioned the The first part is because of his ability with Smooth Talker. Peter Quill, you can say, oh, I know what I'm putting on top. Hey, Cosmo, what do I need to do with you? I need to thwart for 1. Cool, I'll just discard this useless card that I don't need, and I can, keep you alive 1 more turn and use your ability a couple times. Is he a very good ally? He's an okay ally. Is not my favorite. I think he can work well with like Spider-Woman or cards that you can actually get to see what the top card of the deck is, especially in leadership. Falcon. There's other cards, Heimdall, that can kind of help him be better. But again, I don't think it's an ally that is super phenomenal. The only good thing is he costs 2, he thwarts, and he can discard something from the top of an encounter deck. Instead of you getting it as a boost card or as an encounter card. So I think he's got his uses, but for now I think he's on the low side. The only good factor is he's a 2 cost for 2. All right, so that goes for that. Then we're gonna talk about the Pulse Grenade, a 2 cost upgrade. Pulse Grenade is a weapon. It's a hero action. It is an attack. So again, with the new rulings about attack, so this technically, if you are stunned, it's a hero action and attack. So basically, if you're stunned, you can just discard this and get rid of your stun, which is kind of weird. But it also says discard grenade and choose an enemy. So discard the top 2 cards of the encounter deck and deal 1 damage to the chosen enemy for each boost icon discarded this way. So this is a very, again, randomness. It's a very random card. So if you're unlucky, it can do no damage. If you're really lucky, it can do 6 damage. And if you're playing Scarlet Witch, it can go up to 7 damage. So, but for 2, which is it can be good. But I think in the context that we play, are you ever going to spend 2 resources to do that? Nah, I doubt it. For me, is it a good card? It's not terrible, but it's barely past the okay. Because of it's just because of the unreliable nature of the damage. That's why. If there was a way to control that, I think it would go up a little bit. But for me, I think this is just a very weak card. But it's okay. Like I said, it's damage on a stick. So for the precon, I think it's ways to get stuff out of your deck. It's a deck thinning card if you want to play that, and it's a source of damage on the table randomly. So depends, if you have a good idea of what's in the encounter deck. If you're playing like Anachronauts, or you're playing a lot of ones with a lot of boost icons, I send those modular sets. If you're playing with Hulk and then you get his side scheme, what's it called? His nemesis with everything is a triple boost icon, and then yeah, okay, Pulse Grenade, yeah, that was probably a good choice. But aside from that, I don't think it's a very, very good one. All right, and then we finally got the 2 support cards. Then we get Nowhere. Nowhere is a great support card with Star-Lord. Okay, it's a 2 cost, draw you a card every time you play an ally. So 2 cost, Nowhere is a location you can only play if you have the Guardian trait. So obviously you have to be a Guardian, so that you won't be able to play if you're an Avenger or all of the other people, Miss Marvel, all the other people that are not Guardians. So only the 5 Guardians. Or is it 5 Guardians or 4 Guardians we know of? I don't even know. Because Drax, Gamora... No, it's 5 Guardians. Drax, Gamora, Rocket, and Groot, and Star-Lord. So that's 5. All right, and then... So you increase your ally limit by 1, which is great, because he wants to have people on the floor in front of him. There's also a response, in which this is what I like about it. It's after a player plays a Guardian ally, exhausts Nowhere... that player draws a card. So that's very cool. Even if you don't have an ally, if somebody else plays an ally, I think Starhawk, I think, is an ally in protection. Cosmo is an ally in basics. And then there's the leadership allies, which is Yondu, who's the only Guardian, I think. Yeah, so every time you play an ally, so unless you're Star-Lord, where everyone, the best is with Maria Hill or Ironheart. So you play for 2 and then you draw 2 cards. Oh, this is so good. So that's super, super cool. Yeah, and aside from that, this is a very, very good card. I definitely recommend that you play this in all of your decks if you're going to be playing the Guardians themed. And the Guardians team. So yeah, that's super good. All right, and then finally, the last card in the deck is called a CITT, which I don't even know what it means, but I don't know the cool interstellar travel time. Oh wait, oh there it is. Okay, there it is. I should read the cards. The cool interstellar travel ship. Okay. it's such a Peter saying. So yeah, so it's a 2-cost support, CITT. It's a vehicle again. So Peter loves his vehicles. I don't know how he jumps from ship to ship though. And it says exhaust CITT and spend 2 resources of any type. All right, which is very good. So if you have a double resource, not a power of, but a double resource, you can ready a guardian character. Doesn't matter who's playing him. Either you, it could be one of your allies, it could be your own character, it could be somebody else you're playing with that's a guardian, like Gamora or Rocket or Groot, and then you can pay 2 resources and do that. But you have to and spend the 2 resources. But the hero action, it is a support card that you control, so you actually have to play that. Not any player can play that, but that's very, very cool. So, and then readies a guardian character. So very, very cool support card to be able to ready every character you control is very, very nice. Every guardian character can be readied. So that's kind of like, okay, it's not as good as, let's say, the Cloak of Levitation or something like that, because you have to pay 2 for this and 2 for that. But at this point, it's a little bit better than Tenacity, because it stays on the table once it's there. So there you go. All right, and then we're only presenting 3 new cards from the hero kit, because one of the 4th one was a enhanced awareness or enhanced reflex. I forget what it was, but I'm like, it's one of those cards like, why are we getting this again? But whatever. I wish there was a better card or something else like an endurance or downtime. Those cards that people actually use a lot more of in their decks than but whatever. For some, maybe we're going to need more of those in a minute. Who knows? All right, so the first extra card that we're getting is a 4-cost called Dive Bomb, an aggression attack. And this is all about being aerial here. So again, if you don't have your boots, you won't be able to play this card. So you can only play if your identity has the aerial trait. So again, very limiting on the number of characters. But Thor loves this card. Ms. Marvel can play this card as well. Not Ms. Marvel, Captain Marvel. Jesus, Steve. And who else gets aerial trait? Iron Man can play that. And that's good because what it is a hero action. It's an attack. It deals 7 damage to an enemy and deal 1 damage to each other enemy. Now, the scenario where this is going to go crazy, especially if you have Hall of Heroes, is Ultron. Because now this count as your whole attack. So if you're doing that 1 damage to all the drones on the table, so all of those drones are going to get defeated, and then you're going to put like a ton of counters on that Hall of Heroes. So that is going to be amazing. Aside from that, I think this is a just barely okay card because it does cost 4, so a true cost of 5. It is expensive, but it can deal a lot of damage, especially in a very minion heavy scenario. This can save your life. I don't think people are going to play more than 1 of these in their decks, maybe 2, if maybe, but it's so expensive. So I don't know. I think it's a good card. I think this card is gonna grow in value, maybe with the other stuff that's coming in. But for now, I think it's gonna be mostly a 1 of. Again, we don't know what's coming up after the Guardians Most Wanted. So, it has to be a lot of minions. And if we notice something, there is a lot of minion-heavy scenarios or modular sets. If you take a look at the Badoon, Legion of Badoon or Badoon Band, it's 10. The Menagerie is it 9? 9, all of them minions. The Kree Fanatics or the Kree Militants, it's like 8 out of 9 cards is all minions. So I think the minions are going to be coming strong, or anyway, that's what it looks like in what's coming in right now. So I think that's pretty interesting. All right, the next one, I think this is the best one. I think this one is my favorite one. It's going to be crazy for Thor. For anyone who's aerial, like Thor gets aerial as soon as he puts his hammer out. So that is amazing. But this card is Ever Vigilant, 2-cost event, aerial skill. You can only play if your identity has the aerial trait. Hero action, ready your hero and remove 2 threat from the main scheme. I'm like, what? This seems like too good to be true. Like the cost is there. It's a 2 cost to do that, to remove 2 threat. Already that's okay, but to ready your hero for 2 and remove 2 threat, that's so good, man. That is so good. Like, I haven't played it yet with Thor, but that is definitely going into my Thor deck as soon as I start playing Thor Protection again. There's so many heroes now; it's kind of hard to to always go back to them. But when I see cards like that come out, I'm like, oh my god, that just made this character even better. So Ever Vigilant, so good. Definitely my favorite card. And then Agile Flight. Agile Flight is a 3-cost justice card. It's an event. It's gives the you need to, again. It's an aerial thwart. You can only play if you have the aerial trait. Again, with Star-Lord, you have to find those boots first. But it says hero action, thwart, remove a total of 5 threat from amongst schemes as you choose. Now, so far, the only character that I'm excited to play this with is with Wasp in tiny form, where you can, there's 3 side schemes. Okay, cool. So there, where you can actually use that and trigger her small but mighty a bunch of times if you're removing all the threat from like a couple of side schemes. That's the only one. So you start in giant form, you remove a couple of threat, you put everything down to like where you need to be, and then you flip down to tiny form and then just finish it off like that and deal a bunch of damage. So that's the only combo. Again, I think it's pretty expensive for what it does, but the fact that you can kind of separate everything is good. Now, the other thing as well that's very important to know is if there's a crisis icon and there's only a crisis and the main scheme, unfortunately, you cannot divide it. You can't say, I'm going to take 3 off of this first and then 2 off of that. It all happens at the same time. So that is going to lock you out of that. So again, there's a kind of like a drawback on that if there's a crisis icon. But it's not that bad. So that's for the Star-Lord cards. Now let's look at his obligation. All right. His obligation is called Banishment. All right. Give it to the Peter Quill player. You may choose to flip. Again, always the choice to choose to flip to alter ego form. And then you can exhaust Peter Quill to remove Banishment from the game, which is pretty typical. Or you could discard an element gun from play. And if you cannot, you place 3 threat on the main scheme and then discard this. Now, one thing is cool about that is if you don't have any element guns, you can just place 3 threat on the main, which is fine. Or you can just discard an element gun. So let's say you got both your element guns, or if you only have one, and then you're like, oh man, but I have to recover this turn. Okay, whatever. I'm just gonna flip to alter ego and get rid of this, and then I'll recover after. And then whatever, I'll lose my elemental gun, and then we're good. So again, as far as obligation goes, it's not the worst. It's just okay. Now, let's talk about his nemesis guy. Oh my God, this guy, Mr. Knife. Mr. Knife is a unique minion. He's got 2 scheme, 2 attack, 6 health. He's a criminal and an elite, so you cannot defeat him with Richard Wright or Nova Prime. He's got Retaliate too, and it says the first treachery the engaged player reveals each villain phase gains Surge. Now, there's a big debate right now in the community. So if you get Shadows of the Past as your first encounter card, does it Surge? So if you read the card, it says Shadows of the Past, put your Nemesis minion into play. And then you put your Nemesis into play, and then it says finish the rest of the card. So it says, and then so the card still hasn't finished resolving. So that means yes. Anyway, so the tendency is looking as, I think they're still looking for an official answer. So if it changes, well, don't hold me to it. This is what I believe though. Yes, it will Surge for now. And then so you're going to get an extra encounter card as well. And then that's going to be it. Now, but if you have Peter Quill and you reveal, let's say, a treachery first and then you reveal Shadow of the Past, then you're fine. Then this will not Surge. Okay, because it wasn't the first one revealed this round or this phase. But yeah, he is a very, very dangerous guy. You want to get rid of him right away, especially if you're diving into Star-Lord's mechanic. he is a priority. Get rid of as soon as possible. All right. Next, we have his side scheme that comes in. It is called the Budding Crime Syndicate. So, hinder 2. So it starts with 2 and then an extra 2 per player, which is, I think I like that, okay, so there's 1 player, it goes to 4, 2 player, it goes to 6. It scales pretty good. I like that. I think it scales better than just 3 per player or 4 per player. I think it scales a little bit nicer. And it gives you that extra encounter card, so obviously a little bit dangerous, but it's not that bad. It's 4 threat, especially if you have your heroes of the leader of the Guardians. You're already thwarting for 3, so it's not that bad. All right, so but it's that extra encounter card, so you do want to get rid of them. The worst cards though, and there's 3 of them. It's Sparta Conoy. Now this card is brutal. It's super annoying. You discard a card at random from your hand, you take a damage, and you place a threat on the main scheme. This is a hand wrecker. All right. I've lost a couple games because of that. Because if you get that at the end of the villain's deck, and then you have like 2 or 3 of those, and then just like, if I take more encounter cards, what's gonna happen? Oh no, the scheme is like 2 away from popping, and you're like, yep, I'm getting those for sure, and that's gonna wreck your day. So Sparta Conoy, yep, definitely a terrible card to play against. Very, very thematic though, and I think what I've heard is like the Sparta Conoy, I think it's supposed to be like Peter Quill's dad's face on there, but I don't know. I don't know the Guardians too much in the comics, aside from what I know in the movies. But yeah, so guys, so all around, Star-Lord, definitely a character worth exploring. Definitely dive into this mechanic, try some deck builds. I really enjoyed the putting cards that cost 3, a lot of higher cost cards in my deck, complemented with a lot of little cheapy cards that cost 0 or 1 to kind of balance the setup time. And yeah, I've been enjoying very, very much Star-Lord. The more I play him, the more I'm enjoying his whole shtick. So guys, definitely, if you are hesitant on taking on Star-Lord, definitely give him a go. Get out of that precon, because that precon is just messy. With no double resources, it was pretty hard. But again, I was playing on expert, which you shouldn't really do that. But I like to test them out, like just to see how crazy good they are. As a character. But yeah, so it was very, very difficult, especially against Claw, that just messes you. But it worked against Rhino. It was tight, but I got the win after like 2-3 tries. But yeah, Star-Lord, very, very fun. Definitely give him a shot. All right, guys, so keep on playing with Marvel Champions. I hope this little video will help you beat the game. Ciao, ciao.